folks. Thank you very much for joining me. I think you're going to find this presentation quite enlightening. We're going to cover some things that you already know, but we're going to put it into a context where you can learn to be proactive and actually make something happen. All right, we're going to create a financial success blueprint here in the next few minutes, and I expect that it's going to have an impact on many people who watch this presentation. So let's just jump right into it. All right. Now, to fix anything, we must first understand the problem, right? You take your car into the mechanic, he asks you, well, what's wrong? Well, there's a funny noise in the front right wheel. All right. You got to understand what the problem is before you can fix anything. Diagnosis. All right. Most people, if they're not having financial problems, they're not reaching their financial goals. And that's a problem in itself. All right. So let's identify exactly what some of these problems are that are holding us back so that we can rectify the problem and move on and accomplish our goals. All right. So today we're going to review and understand some of those obstacles to financial success. Simple enough. We're going to show you where to get the resources to learn how to remove them. We've got to get those obstacles out of the way, or they're going to continue to hold us back. So we've got the resources for you. And then we're going to lay out a simple sample game plan that you can use as a guide to set your own course to success. All right, so we're going to lay it all out for you. We're going to give you everything you need right here. All right, this isn't an intro, this isn't a primer. You're going to get everything you need to solve your financial problems right here in terms of creating that blueprint for success. All right, so continuing, if you do that, your success is guaranteed. What was that old ad? I guarantee this product. Guaranteed. And that's what this is. All right. There's no doubt about it. Follow this blueprint and your success is guaranteed. So don't bail out on me here. Stick with us till the end. This can have a serious impact on your life. All right. So we've got to create a financial success system. And that's what we're going to do, and that's what we have already in the Lighthouse Law Club to share with you. All right, a financial success system. We start with mindset, and this is so important. I'm an entrepreneur, a business person, been basically doing my own thing since I can remember. I think I took my last corporate paycheck around 1985, and that's been a while. So the point is that you don't shift gears without changing your mindset. And as it relates to money, most people have the wrong mindset. They think about money in a way that doesn't help them get ahead. And so what I'm talking about is most people who have financial problems only think about the money they need to make in order to take care of their obligations, to stay afloat, to pay the bills, take care of the kids' school, do all the necessary things. And so with that mindset, you can easily see that we're only concentrating and focusing on having enough money coming in so that we can meet the obligations going out. And obviously, with that mindset, you never get ahead, do you? All right? We've got to shift our mindset to thinking about money in such a way that, okay, I've got this $100 coming in. What am I going to do with it to make it work for me? How am I going to make this $100 work for me so that I don't have to continually go out the rest of my life working for money? You've heard that before. There's nothing new about that, nothing original. but it's so important. We have to establish that as the basis for us to go forward. Simple, right? Okay. So I think it goes without saying that, as this article confirms, Americans have basically stopped saving money. And we could, I'm sure, say that about people in most countries. There's a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of that, again, is mindset. It's like, hey, Henry, you got $1,000 refund in your tax return? Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to head on down to Walmart and going to get me a bunch of stuff. And isn't that pretty much the mindset we have? We got extra money. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to spend it? We're going to have fun. We're going to have a party. We're going to buy some stuff, some more video games, go on a trip. And what we're saying is basically we're going to waste that money. Right? So, again, mindset. People are not saving, not just because of that, for many other reasons as we're going to take a look at here, but that's number one. All right? And Pew Research Center tells us here that most U.S. workers' real wages have barely budged in decades. In other words, we're not getting ahead. We're making enough to keep up with the bills, but we're not getting ahead. We're not saving. We're not investing, right? So these two things tie together. Real wages are not increasing. Okay, workers are not getting ahead. We're just keeping afloat at best, and many people aren't doing that. Again, for a number of reasons. You know that when you go to the grocery store. You know, why are food prices so high? My goodness gracious. I went to get a pound of bacon the other day, $8 for bacon. I look at my grocery receipt, and it seems like there's nothing on there for less than $4. $4 for, stupid things. This article is a little bit dated, but at the time it was written, it was talking about how food prices have skyrocketed, and they rose at the highest rate in 36 years at that time. And I would venture to say, just looking at my personal experience, and you can probably confirm it, that they haven't slowed down at all, have they? All right, so we've got some serious inflation here. This is where it really hits the pocketbook. We all have to go to the grocery store. We all have to go to the gas station. All right, and so many other things. So let's look at consumer inflation. CPI, it's the Consumer Price Index. These are figures put out, I believe it's the Federal Reserve, I could be wrong, but in any case, this is a very interesting illustration. The red curve, the red line, indicates the official rate that's been announced by the government, right? And it's showing what, about 2.5%, 3%. That's about what the announced or declared consumer inflation is, CPI index. Now, this graph comes from shadowstats.com. You ought to go get familiar with that website. Very interesting. John Williams puts this information out. And what he does is he calculates, in this case, the CPI and other economic indicators. He calculates those based on the way they used to do it, when it was done a little bit more honestly. All right? Since those days, for example, back in the 80s, and earlier, they've adjusted their methodology. They now no longer include certain things in their calculations for inflation, which should be there, and things that are there perhaps shouldn't be there. So in other words, they're fudging the figures, all right, compared to the way they used to do it. So what John Williams does is he'll calculate the data. He'll show us the difference between the way they used to do it and the way they do it now. So what he's showing us here in the blue line is that the actual, more honest indicator tells us that actual inflation rate is slightly above 10%. Looks like it's around 11, approaching 12%, as opposed to the government figures of 2 to 3%. Okay, so inflation is higher than what's being reported, is the bottom line, and you know that, again, from your trips to the supermarket or the gas station. Okay, so this is one of the obstacles that we have to deal with. All right, Harvard Business Review tells us Americans haven't saved enough for retirement. What are we going to do about it? And this is really a crisis. It's not just a social annoyance. This is an actual crisis. Government has done a new report sounding the alarm to Congress about a looming retirement crisis if nothing is done to fix existing roadblocks to financial security for many Americans. And there's many reasons, there's many roadblocks. We're talking about some of those roadblocks right here. So the government recognizes we have a crisis on our hands. Here's an article I pulled out, very interesting. 15 retirement statistics that will scare the crap out of you. Here's what they tell us. America's retirement crisis is the most gruesome wreck you'll find on Main Street. Victims happen every day amid a financial bloodbath of too much debt, not enough savings, and stalled wages. All the things we've just talked about. We can't look away, nor should we. More than ever, you need to prepare for a time when you will want or need to retire. Now, they talk about 15 statistics they pulled out in this article, and you might want to go find this article and look up the other statistics, but we only need one, number one. And that's all we need to know, all right? The other 14 are just more fuel for the fire. But they tell us here that your mama may have told you to be happy with what you've got, but that isn't much if we're talking about retirement savings. A recent survey from GoBankingRates.com finds more than half of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. Now, what does $10,000 get you? Hell, that barely gets a vacation for two, in the Ozarks. You couldn't live on that for more than 2 or 3 months if you have a very modest lifestyle. 1 in 3 Americans have nothing saved. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Zero. And that's scary. National Institute on Retirement Security estimates the nation's retirement savings gap is between $6.8 and $14 trillion, meaning there should be $7 to $14 trillion in retirement funds that just isn't there. That's a lot of money. All right, where do you fit in this grouping? Are you one of the more than half that have less than $10,000 saved? Or are you 1 in 3 that has nothing saved? Even if you had $100,000, couple $100,000 put away, that's not very much with today's inflation. Go back a couple slides. At 8-pound slabs of bacon, you're not going to get too far with that. All right? So we've identified the obstacles. It's a maze. How do you get ahead? How do you get ahead? You got stagnant wages. You got inflation to keep up with. People are over their heads in debt, and it's just impossible to get ahead. Job opportunities are not that prolific, not that abundant, not that productive. How do you get ahead? How do you get out of this maze? How do you get out of all of these dead-end roads? So many people feel trapped in the maze that no matter what they try, where they go, what they do, they just can't get off of that treadmill. And it's never ending. All right, so back to mindset. What we need to do is start thinking out of the box. We've got to rise above these obstacles. We've got to erase those challenges. We've got to wipe out those obstacles that are in front of us, that are holding us back, those chains that are binding us down. And we've got to make our own path. You need to do that with your new mindset. You're going to have to break the mold and be bold, make bold moves, do things that your friends and neighbors aren't doing, because your friends and neighbors all have the same problems that you do, even though they may hide it, might not be apparent. 1 out of 3 Americans has nothing saved. Over half have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. That's a hell of a lot of people. So, point being, you need to be different. You need to have a different mindset. You need to break the mold, start thinking out of the box to find solutions that perhaps are not typical. All right? Now, if you don't want to do that, okay. Stay on the treadmill. Stay where you're at. Hopefully you're comfortable. Enjoy life as best you can. You know, all I can do is say, hey, blessings to you and wish you the best. All right, but that's not what this presentation is about. All right, so rising above and making our own path. Here's a simple formula. Cash flow minus expenses equals net savings. Cash flow goes down, expenses go up. What do you have for net savings? For a lot of people, that number is 0 or very small. All right, so let's just say you're stuck where you're at with your current cash flow. And we're not going to think about that right now. That's not going to change. You're just going to stay where you're at. What if we could reduce those expenses? Obviously, your net savings is going to go up. Some of the biggest expenses that people have, they're paying every month, are taxes. Think of how much is taken out of your paycheck every month. Would that help if you had that in your pocket instead of in the deduction column on your pay stub? How much are you paying on credit card debt? I had American Express card one time, and I realized I was paying an annual interest rate of 40%. And of course, they don't come right out and tell you that. It's hidden in the paperwork. You know, I kept making payments every month, and the balance wasn't going down. How many of us can relate to that? It's highway robbery is what it is. Extortion. You could come up with a lot of labels for it. But think about the idea if that weren't there. And the same holds true with mortgage payments. So if you could get rid of taxes, withholdings, credit card debt, and mortgage payments, how would that affect your life? Would that change your life? Would that make a difference? Would that change the balance in the formula above on your net savings figure? So let's take a look at these. Let's take a look at taxes. Common knowledge is, well, everyone has to pay taxes. If you receive income, you got to pay taxes. And most people have no clue what the definition of income is. All right? There's a legal definition for that term, and most people don't know what it is. It's misapplied every day by just about everybody, especially the professionals that want to tell you what you need to do to stay in compliance. All right? So the common knowledge is, okay, everybody must pay income taxes. Well, I beg to differ. Common knowledge is not correct, and I don't care how many degrees the person has who's telling you that, it's wrong. What the law requires, and let's just say for you freedom movement people, let's just say everybody is in fact a U.S. citizen, and we're not going to get into that game just yet. Let's just say everybody's in the same legal status, and the law is being applied to them, okay? That's a whole nother discussion we're not going to get into here. But everyone needs to pay taxes. No, the law states that only taxpayers, and that's a legal term that has a legal definition, which is basically a taxpayer is someone who has a liability to pay a tax or have a taxable gross income, I should put it that way, be more correct, must file. Doesn't say if you have taxable income that you have to pay taxes, because you just have to file to determine what those taxes are and fill out the worksheet. How many deductions do you have? How many exemptions do you have? How much has been withheld? These are all variables that could very well come down to it where a so-called taxpayer does not have taxes to pay. All right? So that's just to show that that statement that everybody must pay their taxes is not true. All right? Every individual situation is different. All right? But what if you could position yourself so that you had no taxable income? Would that make a difference? And again, we go back to legal definitions. What is taxable income? These are things you need to understand. All right, so without getting into detail beyond this point, I think you're starting to get the idea. Words have meaning. Definitions have meaning. Those definitions are broadly and misapplied in many, if not most, cases. And so if you were diligent enough to know the differences, to know those definitions, to know how they might apply or not apply in your case, you'd have an advantage, wouldn't you? Okay? So I can't tell you how easy it is to position yourself so that you're not a taxpayer. You don't have taxable income. It's so easy. I mean, it's child's play. It's just common sense. And I've got a number of videos on the YouTube channel for Lighthouse Law Club that are going to go into some of these things. All right, so you've got these free resources available to teach you some of these things. All right? Very extensive, very eye-opening, and mind you, the videos, extensive and eye-opening as they are, still are considered to be in the introductory realm. Okay, these are introductory videos. You're going to learn a lot from them, nonetheless. And by saying that these are introductory videos, what I'm saying is that we have so much research, ammunition, legal memorandums, strategies, business strategies to set you up so that you can legally and lawfully step aside from the incoming tax liabilities so they just don't stick to you. You can walk down Main Street and never once be looking over your shoulder in the light of day. Okay? Take advantage of those resources on the YouTube channel. Good information there. All right. So with that, we can take care of taxes. Let's look at foreclosures. Homeowners facing foreclosure. 1 out of every 200 homes will be foreclosed upon. All right. That comes from the Mortgage Bankers Association. Every 3 months, 250,000 new families enter into foreclosure. 250,000 new families every 3 months. 1 child in every classroom in America is at risk of losing his or her home because their parents are unable to pay their mortgage. A slower real estate market can translate into falling prices, which is what we have right now. Interest rates are increasing, prices are falling, people are pulling their homes off the market, and so there's fewer options for buyers. The market's slowing down. As a result of that, homeowners who opted for adjustable rate mortgages may now find that as their mortgage rate adjusts higher, their home value is lower, and therefore refinancing is no longer an option. Their payments are higher, and they can't bail out. The market is slow. They're upside down in their mortgage. They owe more than the home is worth with falling prices. Foreclosure. 6 in 10 homeowners wish they understood the terms and details of their mortgage better. It's like, oh, gee, I didn't know it said that. I wish I knew that before I signed it. And more than 6 in 10 homeowners delinquent in their mortgage payments are not aware of services that mortgage lenders can offer to individuals having trouble with their mortgage. Okay, maybe yes, maybe no. That's a side discussion. But I guarantee you, 10 out of 10 homeowners are very likely to be completely unaware that their mortgage is likely fraudulent and it could be canceled So they have no obligation, no payments, home free and clear. All right, now I know some of you naysayers, some of you scoffers, some of you professional types that might be laughing at that statement, or even me right now because of that. Just hold your horses. Hold your horses. All right? And I'm going to show you why. We're eliminating fraudulent mortgages. Most mortgages are fraudulent. It's an epidemic in the nation. It's everywhere. And if you don't understand how most mortgages are fraudulent, you need to see this video, top center. Beat the bankers. Eliminate debt. This is going to take you into a courtroom scenario, a mock courtroom proceeding, and it's going to illustrate how the banker never loans you anything. You say, oh, but he gave you the check. Well, watch the video. Watch the video and you'll understand things that no one has ever told you in law school, in your MBA or doctorate program. Watch the video. Then we have a whole series. I've got 3 out of about 6 or 7 that I have in total. The series called Run Bankers Run. And you want to look at this one, Checkmate. I interview a gentleman who's a specialist in suing the banks for fraud, winning every time that the client or plaintiff follows through on the suggestions. Sometimes they get scared and they bail out, but for those that follow through on the strategy, they win. Mortgage nullified, no payments, home free and clear. We get into similar but other issues on the mortgage fraud, Bankers You're Busted video, and really all of these videos in this series you need to see. You need to understand. All right, especially you scoffers. All right, keep your mouth shut until you do your homework. It's very simple. Okay, so with that, we can also offer you on our blog page, the blog page on our website. Scroll down the main page, probably 3rd or 4th article down. You'll see this article, Beating the Bankers in Their Fraud. And in this article, you scroll down just a little bit, I've included, I don't know, probably a dozen links to articles on various sources around the internet illustrating how people are winning millions of dollars of damages for the bank fraud. So hey, don't take my word for it. Just do your homework. We've got everything here laid out for you. And once you understand the big fraud, the epidemic of fraud in the banking and mortgage industry, you'll have resources to do something about it. All right? But don't sit back and scoff in your ignorance. Okay? The facts are the facts, and they're unavoidable. All right. Next, let's talk about credit card debt. Here's an article, Market Watch. Americans now have the highest credit card debt in U.S. history. U.S. households collectively have more than $1 trillion in credit card debt. How much of that $1 trillion in debt is yours? Good question. Think about it. You're probably one of those households contributing substantially to that unmanageable figure. And at the rates that are being charged on this debt, can you imagine how the bankers are making out? What if I told you that when you signed that credit card agreement and got the credit card, that you were never lent money from the credit card company or the bank or whoever issued the card? They never lent you any money. If we go back a couple of slides, Again, watch that video, Beat the Bankers, Eliminate Debt. Now, we'll explain to you how you were never loaned anything, but you're paying 40% interest on it every year, or whatever the interest rate is. All right? Now, what if we could get rid of that credit card debt? I mean, just dream a little bit. What if tomorrow morning you woke up, raised your head up out of bed, and you realized you were on a different planet, and in this planet, there was no credit card debt? Would that make your life a little bit different? Okay, we've done a webinar with one of our prime providers, skilled specialists who have years of history in this arena, and they're very good at killing the debt, which is what we call this particular webinar. Just over an hour. This will explain to you the long-lasting track record, successful track record of how these specialists are successfully helping clients eliminate their credit card debt and unsecured credit. Okay, the bad debt. Now, that doesn't mean if you have a tab you're running at the hardware store, you should not pay that. No, we're not saying that. Or if you've got hospital bills. All right, if you've received goods or services directly from the provider, you need to pay for those. We're not saying walk away from your obligations. All right, but when it comes to credit cards and even student loans, it's a different story. And again, you'll understand that better with Beat the Bankers, Eliminate Debt video. Watch this webinar and it'll explain what I'm talking about in great detail. Okay? I'm not going to do it here. The video is there for you whenever you'd like to see it. All right, so then what will you do without high tax payments? Wow. If I never had to, if I could get my whole paycheck and not have those withholdings taken out, or, if I didn't have to make those credit card payments and unsecured debt payments, student loan payments every month, man, that would really help a lot, wouldn't it? And mortgage payments, holy cow, that would be a godsend. So again, if you woke up on a different planet tomorrow morning and you didn't have any of these things, what would you do? What would you do in that situation? Interesting question, isn't it? Well, here's how I'd look at it. Boom! Your life would change drastically. All of a sudden, all that money that was going out, going down the drain, going into the pockets of the corrupt bankers could now be directed to your family, your future, education for the kids, vacation, savings. Hey, wow, savings and investments. Now that's a novel concept, isn't it? Who'd ever have thunk that? All right. Now all of a sudden, you can start to envision the future. Am I right? All right, so now we're starting to get somewhere. We're starting to accomplish something. And I'm telling you right now, with our blueprint, you follow what we're laying out for you, you will do that. You'll do it. It'll happen. And I know there's a lot of you scoffing, laughing, ridiculing, and you simply don't understand. Watch the videos, okay? So now we move to the next level. Now you've got that cash flow. What are we going to do with it, all right? You've probably seen the cash flow quadrant before. Certainly if you've been around me for a while, I talk about it enough in various venues. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Sharon Lechter. This is the basis for everything they do. They've got books and videos and seminars and webinars, and they're just going full speed teaching people the concepts to financial success. And if you haven't done his seminars, I suggest you do them. You will learn a lot. But the basis of everything that he talks about is this cash flow quadrant, and it's real simple. All right, most people are on the left side of the quadrant. They're either employees or they're self-employed. E and S. Employees rent their time. They don't own their time. Someone else owns their time. You want to work for me? You're going to come here at these hours, do this work, and I'm going to pay you so much, and then you're going to go home. Okay? I'm going to tell you where to be, when to be there, and what to do. Your time is not your own. Self-employed is a step up because you own your own time. And because of that, you have more of a sense of freedom, and that's great. The problem with being self-employed is that as soon as you stop working, you become unemployed. The cash flow stops, right? You got to keep working. So from that point, you need to move over to the right side of the quadrant where you have your own business. The business continues to make money whether you show up to the business or not. If you've got a restaurant, so long as you're not the main chef, whether you show up or not, that restaurant's going to open, the manager's going to open it, and everybody's going to do their job, and it's going to make money for you. Okay? So with the profits from that business, you now move into the next level as an investor, where now, instead of working for money, your money is working for you. So you see how this fits in perfectly with the mindset that we talked about in the very beginning. Everything fits together. All right? So with this in mind, we've already accomplished creating a huge net savings for you by eliminating taxes, credit card and unsecured debt payments, and mortgage payments. So now let's talk about moving over onto the right side of this cash flow quadrant and set up a business perhaps, and at least get some money working for you. So already, with taxes, eliminating credit card debt, and mortgage payments, we've already made a tremendous impact on your situation without even talking about moving you from the left side of this quadrant, if that's where you find yourself, either being an employee or self-employed. And now let's talk about moving over to the right side of the quadrant, where you can possibly create your own business income, business revenue, cash flow, and then get that money working for you as a passive investor. That's where you want to be ultimately, all right? Now, since we've already freed up a heck of a lot of cash flow for you, I'm going to skip ahead from the business ownership side, which requires some work, effort, and time, for those that are able to do that. But let's just say we're going to save that for later. Let's just jump straight into the investment side where you can become a passive investor, since now you have all that extra cash flow on a monthly basis by eliminating those big chunks of payments going out. Okay? So what good opportunities exist out there for a passive investor? It's very difficult to get started. So many opportunities simply are not available if you've only got a small amount of cash to work with. You don't have a big lump sum to throw at something. And even if you did, quite often the entry levels for a variety of investments are such that in order to get in, you have to put pretty much everything you have. And so then you've got all of your eggs in one basket. And you understand very well the concept of diversifying, to spread the risk. And that's essentially what an investment club does. As a member of an investment club, you and the other members are able to manage the club amongst yourselves, make your own decisions, just pretty much do what you want to do, and then benefit from the collective capital that's able to be raised amongst the members. All right? So this enables you to access opportunities with a small amount of capital that you might not otherwise be able to access, and have a level of diversification. All right. So the Lighthouse Law Club has created an investment club. You do not need to be a member of the law club to participate in the investment club. What does the investment club invest in? Let's talk about that right now. One of the opportunities among many that will be presenting themselves is this one, crowdfunding ventures. Crowdfunding Ventures is a private trust that is building a basket of opportunities in the business world. What the members of the investment club do, the investment club as a single entity will invest in a certificate unit in the trust, which basically is a claim on profit distributions generated in the trust from the portfolio. All right? And crowdfunding ventures basically is a meeting place where entrepreneurs and investors come together, collaborate to create mutual success. The entrepreneurs are able to generate funds for their projects once they've been approved, and then the certificate unit holders in the trust, the members, then share in the profits. All right? It's pretty simple. So the question then is, well, what are the opportunities that this particular crowdfunding venture organization invests in? Before we get to that, let's just take a little look at the overview page, and we'll get into the portfolio. But for investors, this is a place where we can build a potentially passive income on a diversified portfolio of entrepreneurial ventures, different businesses, okay? And so these businesses are vetted to be sure that there is competent management and above average and realistic earnings potential. All right? And these are considered very heavily and intently by the trustees. All right? The management of crowdfunding ventures, the funding, the distributions are all handled by private trust arrangements with a licensed financial services provider and a professional, well-experienced board of trustees. All right? I'm just going to cover the basics. I know you'll have more questions, want more specifics, but this opportunity allows us to start small, $250 for a single certificate unit of this particular basket of opportunities, this trust. It provides monthly accounting, and we're dealing with real business, all right? There's no Ponzi schemes involved. There's no money games, nothing like that. We're dealing with real solid business activity that, again, is vetted and has a realistic chance of generating some serious cash flow for the investors, okay? Distributions will be paid in gold. That's interesting. That has some serious tax ramifications. And cryptocurrencies are accepted. So that's a little bit of an overview. Let's look at the current ventures. All right, this is very interesting. Litigation financing. You may have heard me talk about, how do we turn $100 into $10,000? And that's very realistic with litigation financing. Okay, we all know the situation of the courts and how they run roughshod over people's rights, denial of due process, we can go right down the list. Crimes that are committed. And when that happens, damages are incurred. And for those that have the wherewithal to go after the criminals who have violated not only their oaths of office, but also professional ethics, civil rights, criminal statutes, we can, again, right down the line, that creates a significant opportunity in terms of recovering damages. In fact, it's such a significant opportunity that litigation financing has become quite a business model. Do a search for litigation funding or litigation financing, and you'll find operations like this one, Lex Shares, an entirely new business model offering participation in the damages and awards that are given by courts when that happens. Okay? To prosecute a case, it could easily go anywhere when you're dealing with, especially a high-powered law firm. You could easily be dealing at a minimum $50,000 to $100,000 to quite easily $200,000 to prosecute a case. But that case could generate many millions of dollars. All right? That presents some very interesting possibilities. All right? Here's a few interesting points. The question is, why are so many attorneys so wealthy? Because they share in huge damage awards of lawsuits that they bring and win. That's one reason. Okay? And so this is an opportunity to help those who have been violated get justice, number one. And it creates a very interesting business model for us that, for example, let's say a case could typically range from $10,000 to $50,000, all right, the way that we do it. And we have a unique way of doing it. I'll explain in just a minute. So let's just pick a number. Let's just say $20,000 is needed to fund a case that's going to generate, let's say, an out-of-court settlement, negotiated settlement for a quick resolution because the defendants really have no way to win. And that amount could be, let's say, $20 million. All right, $20,000 invested for, let's say, 20% of $20 million. That's a $4 million return on a $20,000 investment by the law club. See how these numbers can possibly work? It's a very interesting business model. We've got cases lined up already that easily totaled up into $50 million to $100 million range in damages. All right, so very interesting business model. So that's one element of the basket of opportunities in the Crowdfunding Ventures Investment Club. Then we can look to international finance. There's a company very close to us in terms of relationships, Monaco Management Group. Monaco Management Group is just as the name indicates, it's a group of companies, each fulfilling a specific role to provide a network of capabilities, or in other words, an infrastructure that is able to provide clients with some very interesting capabilities in terms of asset management, financial privacy, wealth management, estate building, dynasty building, all the things that you would want to have as you're starting to save and invest and build an estate in a very private and secure manner. Okay? So Monaco Management Group is able to do a number of things on a business and financial level that are really quite interesting, very creative, licensed where necessary, and operating in a very clean, clear, transparent environment, as well as private and secure. All right, you can read more about that on the website at mmg.world. Okay. So as MMG builds their infrastructure, the investment club here is participating in the gains with that operation in helping to provide assets and resources to help build that infrastructure. All right? So that's very interesting. You can read about that. There's also a project funding system. One party who's very close in our circle has a proprietary method of building investment funds that can be used in a very competitive way to raise upwards of $100 million to $200 million and more for project development, business expansion, real estate development, you name it. All kinds of business projects can be funded using this proprietary mechanism that positions the parties in such a way that they're extremely competitive in attracting capital in the U.S. market through established distribution systems that are already set up through registered investment advisors and so forth. So I'm not going to get into the details, but that is a part of the portfolio. And just as exciting, if not more so, is Bitcoin mining. You know about Bitcoin, or should know. Each transaction that occurs needs to be verified in the blockchain. Computing power is necessary to conduct that transaction analysis and confirmation. That's what Bitcoin mining is confirming the transactions and making it a part of the overall blockchain. And again, a large amount of computing power is necessary for that. And that's what Bitcoin mining is. This is an entirely passive business. We simply invest in contracts. The money goes to buy the equipment to do the mining. And for processing those transactions, we earn Bitcoin. It's an entirely passive activity. Sales are not required. Management really has no bearing on the issue. It's an entirely passive activity. All right. So these are 4 of the business models that we're currently involved in the investment club as it stands right now, and that will be expanded into precious metals, into perhaps other cryptocurrencies, other blockchain technologies. There's new technology coming out almost every day. So many opportunities, it's impossible to even keep up with it. So as a single passive investor, participant in the investment club, you're able to, number one, achieve diversification, which is spreading the risk. You're able to participate in highly lucrative businesses and opportunities which you likely would not be able to if you're, dealing with smaller amounts. And it's an opportunity to expand your network, get to know other people of a like mind, and have a lot of fun. So that's what we can do in the investment club. It's a lot of fun, creates a lot of positives. Really no downside to this whatsoever in view of the relative options that you have, in taking a small amount of funds and trying to find something productive to do with it. So this is a very attractive option. Okay, so what have we accomplished so far? Quite a bit, actually, don't you think? We've freed up cash flow, shown you where to find extra money to save and invest, and not just a little bit either, have we? Right? We've identified how you can make money now start working for you in ways that are far and above the norm in terms of return or potential return. And we've given you an entirely different perspective on life, I hope, where instead of looking at the world as a threat and a challenge, you can view the world as an opportunity. So now we're left with only the final piece of the puzzle. All right? And that piece of the puzzle is moving you from the left side of that cash flow quadrant, where instead of being now only a passive investor, we can add to your estate and your contributions to your savings and investments by being a business owner. And you'll be fully vested in the right side of that cash flow quadrant. So let's take a look at what the Law Club provides for that piece of the puzzle. All right? So now we have you squarely settled in the I quadrant, the cash flow quadrant, as a passive investor with newfound cash flow. Now let's put you squarely in the seat in the B quadrant on the right side as a business owner. The Lighthouse has that covered for you. We've created an affiliate program which allows you to offer the world everything you've just seen and a whole lot more. A lot more. We have solutions. As an affiliate with the Law Club, with the Lighthouse, you can offer solutions. This webpage you're looking at could very well be your own personal webpage as an affiliate with us. And as you see, we cast a pretty broad net. broken down into two general categories. We have the people that need to create wealth, which is most people, and then we have those who need to manage wealth. So we can appeal to the successful business person who's already doing very well and entirely focused on his own business, and we can help him set up his own business arrangements with the help of Monaco Management Group, which you just saw recently, and show him how to keep what he makes. You know, it's one thing to make money, and that's hard enough, but it's harder to try and keep it, especially if you're dealing with the traditional banking and financial systems as we have it, because everything is an open book, and it's a low-hanging plum for the predators to come and take whenever they get the inclination. All right, so if you need to create wealth, we can help you. If you need to manage wealth, we can help you. And oddly enough, these obviously go together, because as you start creating your wealth, your nest egg, your estate, you can have the infrastructure for privacy, prosperity, low taxes, low expenses, set up to build your financial fortress in a private and safe environment. So we've got it covered on both ends, and we can appeal to both types of prospective clients. So imagine the possibilities. This is why we call it the complete financial solution. Once a person actually logs in, they're invited to join our community of free thinkers and think about what you can accomplish. The visitors here to your website will click for more information. They'll put their name and their email address, and you'll now be able to send them autoresponder messages, which are already pre-programmed. So that's already done for you. All right, when they do that, they go and they land on our home page. This is the home page. We've got a message from me. We've got what I think is an interesting and complete video that really tells the message. And if we scroll down a little bit, the program itself, we cover the financial elements of your life. We cover legal aspects of your life. What to do when you get into a courtroom, how to deal with legal paperwork, how to deal with officialdom, how to change legal status, all types of things. That's the specialty of the Law Club. We get into business structuring, how to properly structure your business so that it's private and protected and very productive. All right, we get into just a whole wealth of information on the educational level. And this all leads to creating more independence, not only for you, but for your clients and referrals. All right? And of course, for any of this to work, you really need to hone in on your spiritual connection, because that's the, let's just call it the fusion power that really makes everything work, isn't it? All right, so again, we've got the complete solution. And this is available to help put you into that B quadrant as a business owner. There's much more information, obviously, that you're going to want to have. I'm just giving you a little taste right here. So there you have it. We've covered all the bases. That's your blueprint for success. Now, what are you going to do with it? The next step is to start digging into those videos I referred to earlier in the presentation, and then as you see that this is the real deal, get with the person who invited you to see this presentation and figure out the best way to get started. Take care and God bless.